What's up, my comic comrades? Now, before I get into it, I have to warn you guys there's going to be spoilers for WandaVision within this episode. So for everyone who hasn't watched the first 7 episodes of WandaVision, this is your time to bounce. Well, for everyone who has seen episode 7 of WandaVision, you know exactly why we're giving you an origin of Agatha Harkness. And that's because Kathryn Hahn's character Agnes was revealed to be Agatha Harkness at the end of episode 7, confirming the theory many of us Marvel and comic fans had. Meaning, is the Mephisto theory going to be true? Will he be popping up as well? I don't know. I haven't watched episode 8 yet. Either way, we know we got Agatha Harkness, the newest character and villain to be introduced into the MCU, so let's see what she's all about in the comics. Agatha Harkness first appeared in Fantastic Four issue 94 in January of 1970. She was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And in this issue, Reed Richards and Sue Storm recently had a baby, and as many of us know, that baby is Franklin Richards, who would later become one of the most powerful mutants and just characters in general in the Marvel Universe. But that's down the line. At this point in time, Franklin was just a baby, so Reed and Sue, being superheroes, needed a nanny. Sue even says to Thing, who's holding Franklin, it's time to take him upstate where we've engaged the child rearing specialist to look after him. Thing then says, who needs some crummy specialist? What's the matter with us? She tells Thing, until we give up our lives of danger, Ben, the little fella will be safer elsewhere. So they head up to a lonely house on top of a lonely hill where an old lady, aka Harkness, and her cat look out the window, saying, patience, Ebony, patience. They will be here soon. Although I lived in retirement for years, I cannot say no to my newest charge when I learned the identity of his parents. I think we are due for some interesting moments, my pet. Soon after this, the Fantastic Four land their Fantastic Four car in front of Harkness's house. Before they get out of the Fantastic Four car, Johnny says, gosh sis, when Reed said nobody would find this place, he sure wasn't kidding. Sue then tells him, it's what we wanted, Johnny. It's secluded, serene, and I pray it's safe. Reed then tells Thing, don't judge this place by its looks. Miss Harkness happens to have a world-famous reputation. Ben then says, yeah, for what? Being the top graveyard manager of the year? They then start walking towards the door, but before they can knock, Harkness opens up saying, I am Agatha Harkness, and this is Ebony. You may enter. Yeah, that doesn't give creepy vibes at all. Once inside, Ben says, she reminds me of that dame in the fairy tale who invited the kids into her cottage and made cookies out of them. Johnny then says, quiet, she might hear you. Sue then tells Agatha, we're so happy that you'll be able to look after little Franklin for us, Miss Harkness. Agnes then says, I had been in retirement for years, Mrs. Richards, but having heard of who you are and your little group, I just couldn't refuse. Sue then asks Miss Harkness, in which room will the baby stay? She tells her, I shall keep him with me, of course, as I've done with all my charges, and now since it's too late and too stormy for you to leave, I shall show you to your rooms. Now, if you're getting something's fishy here vibes, that's for good reason, but maybe not the reason you may think. Anyway, back in Johnny and Thing's room, Thing finds a secret passage which leads them to come face to face with the Frightful Four, which is a team made up of Medusa, the Wizard, Sandman, and Trapster. The Frightful Four then take out Johnny, Storm, and the Thing and lock Reed and Sue in their room. But we later find out Medusa only joined the team so she could be on hand to help the Fantastic Four if the need arose. Which she clearly did, so she attacked the Frightful Four, but they just took her down for betraying them. But remember, the Frightful Four is doing all of this in Harkness's house, so she's not too happy about this. So she tells them, I warn you, you must come no further. Even now, Ebony's hackles start to rise. At which point the Wizard says it'll take way more than an alley cat to stop the Wizard. But on the next page, we see Harkness say, Ebony is far, far more than just an alley cat, as he turns into some sort of magical panther. Long story short, Harkness defeats the Frightful Four, at which point the Fantastic Four are finally able to escape their rooms and run into Harkness's room saying, Miss Harkness, everything seems all right. And she replies, well, I should hope so, Mr. Richards. Now please, keep your voices down. We don't want to wake the baby. Susan goes over to Franklin saying, he's sleeping at peace. It seems that Agatha Harkness was the perfect choice for us after all. Agatha then tells the Fantastic Four, you must be tired, you should head to bed. But Ben notices a book on her nightstand titled Tales of Old Salem. He then says to himself, now what would an old dame like her be doing with a baddie book like that? Salem. In the olden days, that's where, oh no. Sue and Reed would never leave their pride and joy in the care of someone who was, or would they? Come to think of it, if they wanted to be sure someone could really protect their kid, but then he's interrupted by Agatha saying, something wrong, Mr. Grimm? He tells her, no. She then says, you're looking at me so strangely, one would almost think that I were a witch. Ben, terrified, slowly closes the door, saying, who would ever imagine anything like that? And as he runs out the room, she says, who indeed, my dear Mr. Grimm? And that, my friends, is the first Agatha Harkness story. She was originally introduced as an expert nanny and became the nanny for Franklin Richards. Then towards the end of the story, we find out she's such a good nanny, she was able to protect Franklin because in actuality, she's an extremely powerful witch from Salem. Now, Agatha's origins are never completely flushed out, but we do know a little bit. For instance, in Silver Surfer issue 135, we find out that Agatha is actually nearly an 11,000-year-old witch that escaped from the Salem trials. But not only that, in this issue, we find out Alicia Masters is trying to save Silver Surfer, and she thinks the only person that could do that is Doctor Strange, the master of the mystic arts. But Harkness shows up saying, Strange is not the one you need, child. I am. Alicia then tells her, I am more than a little confused, Miss Harkness. One minute I am home, and the next, Harkness then interrupts saying, "You are here. At my Whisper Hill estate. Do not seek to understand these things, Alicia. Just be grateful that I sensed your need and responded." As she starts casting a spell over Silver Surfer, Harkness continues to say, "When Stephen Strain was just a mass of unformed cells coalescing in his mother's womb, I've been practicing sorcery for centuries. And I tell you that I would succeed even where he would surely fail." So not only does this tell us she's been practicing witchcraft and sorcery for centuries before Doctor Strange was even born, but she's straight up saying because of this she's more powerful with sorcery and the mystic arts than the freaking Sorcerer Supreme. So now knowing this, it's easy to see why Reed and Sue chose her to watch over Franklin, as she could protect them from supernatural threats if need be, as well as do all that normal nanny stuff. Agatha was also the one who noticed something odd about Franklin from a young age. She was straight up the first person to tell Reed and Sue about his reality warping powers. She was all like, "Hey, we may want to nip this in the bud and get it under control because, you know, he could erase reality and all." Now, at this point in the episode, you may be saying everything you said about her so far, she's been helping the good guys, meaning she's in fact a good guy. And yes, in the comics she's good, but she's also kind of bad. She kind of walks that line where she's good and bad, depending on what suits her at the time. So I'm curious to see where the MCU takes her. Anyway, after being Franklin Richards' nanny for years, she decided to move on and take on a new job. This time, she would help mentor and teach the Scarlet Witch. Being one of the most powerful witches in all of Marvel, she helped Wanda grow her hex powers exponentially. Again, she helped Wanda with her powers and mentored her for a very long time, and would pop in and out of Scarlet Witch's life all the way up to her death. Which brings us to Avengers Disassemble, where it was revealed that Agatha had died by the hands of her former pupil, Scarlet Witch. You see, we find out that the Scarlet Witch had a nervous breakdown over the loss of her children, which, as we know, really weren't her children, but rather remnants of Mephisto's soul that Wanda was able to channel and create life with, aka her children. Anyway, when Agatha was trying to console Wanda with her loss, she lost it and killed Agatha in the process. Now, is Agatha actually dead? We don't know, because comics, and she is a really powerful witch, but that's the brief origin of Agatha Harkness. But now that you guys see how closely tied she is to the Fantastic Four, as that's literally the title she first appeared in, and she was also Franklin Richards' nanny for several years, it seems logical to think that the Fantastic Four, or at least one member from the team, will make an appearance by the end of WandaVision. Because we already know the Fantastic Four has been confirmed for the MCU. So a show that has Agatha Harkness in it would make all the sense in the world to introduce the Fantastic Four. Also, for those of you who didn't know that Wanda's children who are in the show, Billy and Tommy, aka Wiccan and Speed, they're made from pieces of Mephisto's soul by Wanda. So does that mean Mephisto is definitely going to show up in the show by the final episode? Seems like that's likely, because again, we know her kids are linked to Mephisto in the comics, but as we know, the MCU doesn't always follow the comics, so who knows? But before I wrap this up, I know some of you are wondering about her powers and abilities. Well, Harkness is a witch that possesses extreme mastery of the mystic arts. Because of this, she can create illusions, move objects, project force fields, and even thoughts. And she can teleport. Basically, all you need to know is her powers are on par with Scarlet Witch, as she literally taught Wanda how to use her powers. Now, if you guys want some Agatha Harkness reading recommendations, check out the Fantastic Four issues 94 through 137, the 1985 Vision and Scarlet Witch series, the Avengers West Coast series, and Avengers Disassemble. That's enough to get you all started. And that's gonna bring another episode of Variant to a close, but if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to check out this video right here, and if you like all of our videos, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It always helps us out. But I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.